Hello, cat aspirants. Welcome to another episode of Bell the Cat series. Today, we'll be looking at the student and course problem from CAT 2023. This is a very information heavy problem and was considered tough by a lot of students during that particular exam. So, let's get started. So, we'll start by reading out the problem. So, we have three female students, Amla, Kohli, and Rini, and three male students, Biman, Matthew, and Shamal. Also, they have given a course which has two evaluation components, one project and one test. Also, the average aggregate of these two is positive and they add to 1. So for example, if the weighted if the weightage of project is 0.25 and test is 0.75, then we'll have to take a weighted average using these two weightages to calculate the aggregate of the total course. Also, the project component of the course is performed in groups of two each, where one member is a female student and another member is a male student. And also, we know that both the group members they have obtained the same score in the project. Then we have a lot of information given along with this main information, which CAT calls additional facts. So if you see points 1 and 2, right, they are mostly related to what values are present for the given scores for test and project evaluations. For example, the minimum, maximum, and average is 40, 80, and 60 respectively. Then all the test scores are multiples of 10, and four of them are distinct, and two of them are equal to the average test scores. So this is related more to the different kind of values that we have for the scores. Then, if you see, we have some information regarding the individual scores as well. Like Shamal has scored the second highest in the test, Biman has scored the second lowest in the test, and then we have the information regarding the aggregates also. Like what is the aggregate for different students. So, first, to solve this particular problem, what we are going to do is we are going to not go through the information in depth, but we are just going to tabularize what is given and identify what we have to find out. So we have six students which we have listed in one column. Then we have marks which are obtained by them in the test. Let's give the weightage of the test as x. Then the weightage of the project becomes 1 minus x. And then we have the marks which we need to be obtained by the students in the project also. And then we have the aggregate score. So by looking at this information, right, we can understand we need to find the individual marks, the weightages, and then the aggregate. So three things. So what could be the next thing what we have to do is we'll have to find what could be the best starting point to solve this particular problem set. So can I start with the aggregates directly? Because I'm not aware what the value of x is. So I'll not be able to find the aggregates. I cannot find the x also directly because I don't have any direct information which is regarding the weightages. So I'll be starting with the individual marks that the students have obtained in the test and the project components. So that is the thing which I'm going to start with. So what we can do is we'll be doing is we will be distributing this particular information into three different parts. The first part is regarding the values that are present for the test and the project scores, which is marked in red here. Then we will be looking at the information regarding the individual scores. For example, Shamal's score is second highest in the test. Amla's score is double than of Kohli's in the project. Kohli has scored 20 more than Amla in the test. Such information. This is marked in green here. And lastly, we'll be looking at the information which is regarding the aggregate scores of the students, which is marked in blue here. So let's get started with the red information first. So this is regarding the scores that are present, the value of the scores, possible scores that we might have. So let's consider the project scores first. So we know that the project scores are similar for the students which are in there in the same group, and the possible minimum and the maximum values are 40 and 80. So definitely we'll have two students with 40 and two students with 80, and also the average is 60. Since the average is 60, two of the students will have to get marks of 60. Then only the average will become 60. Hence, we can, drill down to the project marks set in this case, which would be 40, 40, 60, 60, 80, 80. So now the six students will be getting the marks from this set only, no other value outside of this set. Okay. Now let's come on to the test scores. So for test scores, we know that again the minimum and maximum value is 40 and 80, and two of the students have received the average test scores, that is 60. So four of the values are clear here: 40, 80, 60, 60. Four of the values are clear. Now all the test scores are multiples of 10, and four of them are distinct here. So two of them we already have it, 40 and 80. So the only two multiples of 10 which are between 40 and 80 and are distinct are 50 and 70. So the test mark set is also clear at this point of time, which is 40, 50, 60, 60, 70, and 80. Now, let's move on to the next piece of information, which is the individual marks of students in test and project scores. So, this is the information that we have, and we have the project sets also, like marks set also defined at this point. So now, first thing is Amla's score in project was double that of the Kohli in the projects. So project we know that we have 40, 40, 60, 60, and 80. So we have to take 40 and 80 as the subset of this to make it a double and half between Amal's and Kohli's scores. So definitely we'll have to give score of 40 to Kohli and 80 to Amla. That is the only option that we have. And since all the three female students have distinct marks, because these three will also get repeated for the male students, therefore we'll have to assign 60 to Rini in project. So these three values we can freeze right now. Next information that we have is Kohli scored 20 more than Amla in the test. But we don't have any clear possibility of assigning that right now, because I can give 50 and 70 also to those two students. I can give 40 and 60. I can give 60 and 80. So there are multiple possibilities. And we know that whenever we have multiple possibilities, we will choose a path with low number of possibilities. So let's not look at this information right now. Let's keep it as is with us. So we have not used that information. Therefore, I am just keeping it aside for us to remember. Next, we have information that Shamal scored second highest in the test, which is 70. So I am assigning 70 here to Shamal. Then Biman has scored second lowest in the test, which is 50. So I am assigning 50 to Biman now. Next information that I have is Matthew has scored more than Rini in the project. So we know that Rini has scored 60. So the only possible option here is 80 for Matthew. So we'll be assigning 80 in projects for Matthew. That means Amla and Matthew would be a part of same team because they have the same scores in the project. But that's okay for now. And also we know that Matthew has scored less than Rini in the project and in the test. But again, we don't have concrete information there. There are many possibilities, so we will hold on to this information right now. We'll just mark it as is. So these two points from the information, we will hold it for now. Now let's look at the sets that we have. So I have striked out the information which we have already frozen. So from projects we have 40 and 60 is left, 40 and 60 is left, and from test we have 40, 60, 60, and 80 left, and corresponding slots are also open in the table that we have. So now let's what I want to do is I want to just mark these particular values in the test in with an oblique in between them. So let us say if I assign 40 to Biman, in that case Shamal will have 60, and if I assign 60 to Biman, then Shamal would have 40. So let's assign these values. This is either or now. That's why I have highlighted this in yellow color, because those are not freezed. These are still possible values. Next then look at the test marks. So test marks, I know that Kohli has scored now 20 more than Amla here. So if I assign 80 to Kohli, then Amla would have 60. If I assign 60 to Kohli, Amla would have 40. I cannot assign 40 to Kohli because there is no value less than 40 which is there. So there are two possible values for Kohli, 80 and 60. If I assign 80 to Kohli now, then Amla would have 60. And if I assign 60 to Kohli, then Amla would have 40. So these are the corresponding values for Amla now. Now, what possible values left with me is, if I assign 80 to Kohli, 60 to Amla, then Rini would have 60 because Rini has more marks than Matthew. So in that case, I'll be assigning 60 to Rini and 40 to Amla and 40 to Matthew. And then if I assign 80 to Kohli, 60 to Amla, and if I assign 60 to Kohli, 40 to Amla, then I'll have to assign 80 to Rini because Rini has more marks than Matthew, and I'll have to assign 60 to Matthew. So this is the possible corresponding value set that I can make out of this particular information. Now, let's we have consumed all the information that we had in red and the green color. Now let's look at the aggregate information which was marked in blue, which is now these two things. Amla has the highest aggregate score, Biman has the lowest aggregate score, Shamal has two more than Kohli and two less than Amla. That means Amla has four more than Kohli. Now, so as we know, right, Amla has the highest aggregate, Kohli has highest minus 4 than aggregate, Biman has the lowest, and Shamal has highest minus 2 aggregate score. Now, how we can find the value of x right now? Now let's consider this particular equation. Case 1. Now there are two cases because there is two corresponding value sets that I have. So in case 1 where Amla has 60 marks in test. So that is my first case. So in that case, if I use this particular equation between Amla and Kohli, then what kind of equation that I get? So 60 into x plus 80 into 1 minus x will be equal to 80 into x plus 40 into 1 minus x equal to plus 4, because Kohli has 4 marks less than Amla in this case. That's why we have this particular equation. If we solve this particular equation for case 1, we get the value of x as 0.6. Now, if I give the value of marks in test as 40 to Amla and 60 to Kohli and try to derive the equation, this is the equation I'm going to get. How I'm getting the equation again? I'm multiplying 40 by x, then I'm adding 80 into 1 minus x, and then I'm equating that with Kohli's marks. So 60 into x plus 40 into 1 minus x plus 4, because Kohli has 4 marks less than Amla. So I have to balance it by adding 4 to the RHS this side. In this case also I get the value of x is 0.6. That means either way we go, the value of x is zero point 0.6, and therefore the weightage of marks for test is zero point 0.6 and the weightage of marks in project is zero point 0.4, which is 1 minus x. Now, this is the information that I have. X is now zero point 0.6 and weightage for project is 0.4. Now let's try to find out the aggregate values using for case 1 now. So for case 1, if I try to calculate the aggregate for Amla, what it would be? It would be zero point 0.6 into 60, which is 36, and zero point 0.4 into 80, which is 32, which would come at 68. Again, if I do it for Kohli, it would be zero point 0.6 into 80, which is 48, and zero point 0.4 into 40, which is 16. That would come out to be 64. So far, so good, because we know that Kohli has 4 marks less than Amla in this case. Now let's calculate for Shamal first, because we know that Shamal, we have a condition with us. We don't have a condition for rest 3 students. Therefore, we'll calculate for Shamal first. So for Shamal, I have two possible project scores, 60 and 40. So I'll calculate it for both. So if I do zero point 0.6 into 70 plus zero point 0.4 into 60, I get 66. And if I do zero point 0.6 into 70 plus zero point 0.4 into 40, I get 58. Now, since Shamal has 2 marks less than Amla, therefore I will have to go with 66 only in this case. I can happily remove 58 as a possible value. If I'm removing 58 as a possible value, then I will have to also remove 40 as a possible value from Shamal's project marks. And indirectly, I'll be removing 60 from Biman's marks in the project. So this is if I'm removing 58, I have to remove 40 from Shamal and 60 from Biman. So now this is the possible set that I have. Now let me calculate the other aggregates as well. For Rini it would be 60. For Biman it would be zero point 0.6 into 50, which is 30, plus zero point 0.4 into 40, which is 16. So I'll have 46. Again for Matthew it would be 24 plus 32, which is 56. So this is one possible solution that I get after solving for case number 1. Now let's solve it for case number 2. So for case number 2, we have Amla's marks in test as 40, and then we have the corresponding values for other students also. So similarly, I'll be calculating the aggregates now. So for Amla, it comes out to be 56. For Kohli, it comes out to be 52. Again, so far so good, because the difference between Amla and Kohli is of 4 marks in the aggregate. And then if I try to calculate it for Shamal, I get the values of 66 and 58, which breaks the given that I have, because Shamal cannot score more than Amla. He has to score 2 less than Amla in this case. Hence, this particular case number 2, where Amla scores 40, Kohli scores 60, is not possible as a possible solution. So I can happily reject this particular solution altogether. Now, this is the possible set of solution that I have, which I can proudly say is the final solution. Also, if you see the marks in project for Amla and Matthew, they are 80. Hence, Amla and Matthew will form one team. For Biman and Kohli, it's 40. So Kohli and Biman will form one team. And for Rini and Shamal, it's 60. So Rini and Shamal will form the third team. And we have the corresponding marks in test, corresponding marks in project, and the aggregate values, which actually go along with all the information that we have from the given. Now let's look at the questions. So first question is, what was the Rini score in the project? So we know that the Rini score in project is 60. And if you remember, this was one of the first values that we calculated from very simple given information that we had. So that's why this question was very simple. Now, next thing is, what was the weight of the test component? We know that the weight of the test component is 60, that is zero point 0.6. So the answer is option A. This question, only those students which near about solve the set to a complete extent will be able to answer the question, because once you get the weight of the test component, I don't think so there is any difficult step post that. The most important step and most difficult step in this problem set is finding the weight of the test component, that is the value of x. Next question is, what is the maximum aggregate score obtained by the student, which we know was Amla, and Amla has the score of 68. Therefore, option A is the right answer. Then, what was Matthew's score in the test? So we know Matthew's test score in the test is 40. Here, right here in second last column. So the answer here is 40. And the last question is, which of the following pairs of students were part of the same project team? We have first option as Amla and Biman, which we know is not correct. And second, we have Kohli and Matthew, which again is not correct. So the option C is the right answer, which is neither one nor two. The answer is option C. So what have we learned from this particular problem, which will help us in CAT? First thing is, whenever you read a question which is very heavy on the information, always try to divide the information first and then only try to use it. Because the way we use differentiated the information, right, in the three colors, red, green, and blue, that help us to prioritize what particular information we will be solving it for first. And also always try to track what information you have already used and what information you are yet to use. That will help you focus on what particular next set of questions, or what uh, next set of values that you want to find from the given problem. If you don't keep a track, you will get confused again and again, and that will take more time to solve the problem. And next, that what we learned is, Your main aim is to answer the questions and not to reach a perfect solution. Your aim is not to find all the possible values or not to find all the values, or to all do all the mappings that you have. That's not your ultimate aim. Your aim is to answer the questions that are there. So always read the questions first. Keep an eye on what is asked in the questions, because even if you're not able to solve the set completely, as we see, right, the first question was, what did Remy score in the projects? That was easily understandable and that was easily solvable. So you need not solve the complete set to answer some of the questions. So if you're spending some time, then definitely answer a few questions and then move ahead. And if you're able to solve the problem completely, then well and good. So this was all about this particular problem. Hope you have learned something today. Tell us in the comments what DLR question you want us to solve next. It may be from cat, it may not be from cat. Once you give it to us, we will try to include that particular problem in our next episode. Till then, stay motivated, stay focused, and we'll see you in the next episode.